Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. So here we simplify the Microsoft Power Platform with real world scenarios, technical deep dives and practical tips you can use the right away. So if you are ready to build a smarter apps and transform the way you work, you are at the right place. So the building apps in the Power Apps but stuck choosing between the Dataverse and the SharePoint. So in this video we will break down the key differences, so how you can in the real world scenario and even dive into the functions and the methods you will use every day. So whether you are creating a simple departmental tracker or a complex enterprise grade app, this guide will help you to make the right choice. So let's keep started. Data versus SharePoint in the Power Apps. So let's start from the Dataverse. So in the Dataverse, in the data model there are tables with the relationships, there are lookups, and there are the option sets. In the Dataverse, there are different types of methods, or you can say functions. First one is the patch, that is used for the record updates. Lookup for the relational queries across the between the tables. Filter for the complex conditions, and the business rules and the plugins for the server side logic. So here if we discuss about the scenario, means in which scenario we should use the Dataverse. So imagine you are building a sales CRM application and you need to store the accounts, contacts and the opportunity with the relationship between them. So here Dataverse will allow you to define these tables, enforce referential integrity and the query across them efficiently. So for example, here you can utilize the filter where you want to get all the linked data about the specific account. So you will use the filter function and you will pass the opportunity and the account ID, and that account number will be displayed here. For the SharePoint, the data model will be list and libraries that should be flat structure and no enforced relationship between them. So for that we can utilize the different methods. Here also we will use the patch for the list item updates, collect for caching the list data locally, filter for the simple query, and power automate for any new workflow design like approval or notification. Here, in which scenario we should use the SharePoint. So, for example, you are creating a leave request app for the HR department, and each request is a list item in the SharePoint. So, and you can attach the documents like medical certificate, approvals, and you can manage the permission easily. So, for example, you are submitting a new leave request to the SharePoint list. So, how you will do this? You will use the patch function here. You will pass the list name leave request and then default leave request, and you will pass the title. Suppose title is annual leave. Imply in the imply the name should come of the employee whoever is applying the leave, user dot full name, and first time it will be status equal to pending, and once it will get approved then status will be get updated. Next slide is scenario based comparison. So here we will do the comparison between the Dataverse and the SharePoint on the base of the different scenarios. So suppose first you are creating a CRM app where the entity involves our accounts, contact and opportunity. So in the Dataverse, you will get the relationship tables between them and lookups and the business rules. But in the SharePoint, it will be difficult to manage the relationship. So in this case, we will choose the Dataverse instead of SharePoint. Second one is the document management app. Suppose you need to create any document management app where you need to store the policies, contracts. So basically Dataverse is not designed for any file storage perspective. So in this case, you have to go with the SharePoint that will support the native document libraries. Next one is the expense tracking app, where some approval is also required for the expense. So in this, the complex workflow will be required and the role-based security will be required. So you can go with the Dataverse and you can also go with the same SharePoint because there will be the simple list, and for the approval perspective you can utilize the Power Automate. IoT data logging, where you have the million of records. So for million of records you need to go to the Dataverse that will scale with the million of rows. Whereas in the SharePoint, you may face the performance issue with the large list. Next one is the departmental task tracker. Suppose there is a requirement to create the departmental task tracker. So for this one, Dataverse you should not use because it will overkill for the simple task. With, instead of that, you should use the SharePoint that will easy to set up and share. Which functions and methods we should utilize this one? So for the Dataverse perspective, suppose there is a relation query. So in this case, you need to get all the contacts that are linked to a particular account. So for that you will use the lookup function, then you will pass the contacts and you need to give the detail of the account ID equal to whatever is there. And for the SharePoint, it's document centric workflow you need to create. So in this case, you will use the filter, then you will provide the list name, leave request, and apply equal to user dot full name. Hybrid example. Suppose you want to use the both the things. So say store documents in the SharePoint, contracts and invoice you will use, whereas store structured data in the Dataverse, customer record and transactions you are using. Okay. So if you are going to connect both in the Power Apps using the dual data source. So how you will do it? You will first combine the SharePoint and the Dataverse data. So for that you will use the clear collect all data, then comma, then add columns. You will add the columns contracts, customer name, then look up customers, comma, customer ID equal to contracts dot customer ID, and you will fetch the complete name of that one. So using the Dataverse when your app needs the relational data, enterprise security and the scalability. And you should use the SharePoint when your app is document driven, it's lightweight and the cost sensitive. For many apps, a hybrid approach is being used where you will use the Dataverse for the structured data and the SharePoint for the document perspective. Let's understand some important interview questions related to the Dataverse and the SharePoint. So here the first question came out, what is the fundamental difference between the Dataverse and the SharePoint and when used as a data source in the Power App? So Dataverse is a relational database that is service designed for the structured business data, whereas SharePoint is the primarily a document management and the collaboration platform. Dataverse supports the tables, relationships, business rules and the plugins that will make the enterprise grade applications, whereas SharePoint use the list library and that is basically a flat structured without any enforced relationship. So SharePoint is better for the lightweight document centric application, whereas Dataverse is better for the Excel in the complex or the relational scenario app. In what scenario would you recommend Dataverse over the SharePoint? So Dataverse is recommended when the app required the relational data modeling, enterprise grade security and the scalability. For example, you are creating a CRM app with the accounts, contacts and the opportunity benefits from the Dataverse because it enforces the referential integrity and it also supports the advanced query. Dataverse also integrate deeply with Dynamic 365 and the Power Automate. That will make it ideal for the mission critical business application. Whereas SharePoint would struggle in such scenario due to its flat data structure and the limited relational support. How does licensing impact the choice between the Dataverse and the SharePoint in the Power App? So licensing is definitely a critical factor when you are going to create any app. So SharePoint is included in the most Microsoft 365 subscription and making it a cost-effective options for the simple apps. Whereas Dataverse required a premium licensing, which add the extra cost, but it will unlock the advanced features like relational tables, business rules, enterprise security. So organization must wait whether the added functionality of the data will justify the licensing expense, especially for large scale or the mission critical apps. Can you explain how Power Apps functions like patch and lookup behave differently with Dataverse versus the SharePoint? So with Dataverse, patch basically act as to update the relational records while maintaining the integrity across the tables. Lookup can query the related tables using the relationship. So for example, you can patch an opportunity record linked to an account and in SharePoint the patch updates the list item. But relationship must be manually managed. Means like you are storing the ID in the column, then you can manage this one. In the SharePoint case, the lookup will work only within a single list and it will limit the cross list query. So you can not make any query. There are linkage between more than one list. So the differences highlighted data was strength in the relational data handling. What are the scalability limitations of the SharePoint compared to Dataverse? So SharePoint lists are not designed for large scale dataset because of the performance issue when the list exceeds tens of thousands of items. So especially for the complex query and the multiple users, SharePoint is not recommended. We should use the Dataverse, which is optimized for the million of records and it supports the indexing, relational query, and the performance tuning. So for apps that require the high volume transactional data, Dataverse is the definitely a clear choice. SharePoint is better suited for the departmental apps with the smaller dataset. What does security differ between the Dataverse and the SharePoint? So Dataverse offers the role-based and field-level security, which will allow you to fine-grain the control over you who can view or edit the specific data fields. This is crucial in the compliance heavy industry like finance and the healthcare. Whereas SharePoint provides a list and library level permissions, which are simpler but less granular. So SharePoint can restrict access to entire list or the documents, but it cannot enforce the field level security. So Dataverse is better for app that is required a strict governance. How do you design a hybrid Power App solutions using both Dataverse and the SharePoint? So a hybrid solution leverages Dataverse for the structured relational data, whereas SharePoint for the document storage. So suppose for example you need to create a procurement app, vendor details and the transactions are stored in the Dataverse tables, while contracts and invoices will be stored in the SharePoint library. So Power Automate will bridge the tool and syncing the metadata and the triggering the workflow. So this approach will definitely going to combine the data versus scalability and the SharePoint document management strength that will offer a balanced architecture. What does Power Automate play when using the SharePoint as a data source compared to Dataverse? So with SharePoint, Power Automate is often essential for the workflow like approvals, notifications, and the document writing. Since SharePoint lacks advanced business rules, so we can utilize this one, but in the Dataverse, many workflow can be handled natively through the business rules plugins or the Power Automate integration is also feasible in the Dataverse. So, for example, Dataverse can enforce the validations at the table level, while SharePoint maximum relies on the external workflow. So, this will make Dataverse more self-sufficient, while SharePoint will be depend on the heavily for the Power Automate for the automation perspective. How do integration capability differ from between the Dataverse and the SharePoint in the Microsoft ecosystem? So Dataverse basically integrates deeply with the Dynamics 365, AI Builder, and the Power Automate. That is ideal for the enterprise applications, and it also supports the advanced analytics and the machine learning scenario. Whereas SharePoint integrates strongly with the Office 365, Teams, and the OneDrive. It will make it perfect for the collaboration and the document centric workflow. So this choice depends on whether the app is business data driven or the collaboration driven. What are the risks of choosing the wrong data source for a PowerApps project? So if you are choosing the wrong data source, that can lead the performance bottlenecks, security gap, and maybe costly rework. So for example, using SharePoint for a relational CRM app may result in complex workaround, poor scalability, and a data integrity issue. So using Dataverse for a simple task tracker may also overkill and adding unnecessary licensing costs. So the key risk is misalignment between the app's requirement and the data source capability, which can be determined the adoption and the ROI. So thank you friends for watching the video of the Dataverse versus the SharePoint. So I hope this will break down for the Dataverse and the SharePoint in the Power Apps, and it will help you to understand which option is fit for your project. So if you found this video helpful, so don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the Power Platform. So if you are having any question, please drop in the comment and I will love to hear how you are using the Power Apps in your organizations. And if you want more technical guides, check out the links in the description. So until next time, take care, goodbye, and keep building the smarter apps with the Power Apps. Thank you.